U.S. President Donald Trump hosts Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari at the White House. We'll have a live report. In northeast Nigeria's Adamawa state, educators are training to better teach children impacted by regional insurgency. And searching for Togo's football stars of the future. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. The meeting between Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari and U.S. President Donald Trump is underway at the White House on Monday. The White House says President Trump is looking forward to discussing ways to enhance the strategic partnership between the U.S. and Nigeria, a country of almost 200 million people, and to advance their shared priorities, which include promoting economic growth and reforms, fighting terrorism and other threats to peace and security, and building on Nigeria's role as a democratic leader in the region. Nigeria has been plagued by extremist group Boko Haram, which launched an insurgency 9 years ago with the aim of creating an Islamic state. Tens of thousands of people have been killed and hundreds of schoolgirls have been kidnapped. The terrorist group poses one of the most severe threats to West Africa's Sahel region in recent years. The White House says America's relationship with Nigeria is deep and strong, and Nigeria's economic growth, security, and leadership in Africa will advance the mutual prosperity of both nations. For more insight on the meeting between President Trump and President Muhammadu Buhari, let's go to VOA's William Gallo, who is standing by live via Skype from the White House. Bill, now President Buhari has just arrived at the White House. Can you tell us a little more about what transpired as soon as he came in?
Yes, he just did pull in here to the White House. President Buhari greeted Mr. Trump. We couldn't actually hear what they said when they greeted, but later on there was a short public comment period there at the beginning of their meetings. President Trump praised the relationship between Nigeria and the U.S. He also said that talks would focus on terrorism. Now, it's a beautiful day here in Washington, and later on they'll actually head out to the Rose Garden for a press conference. We'll get some more comments there. But this is seen as sort of an attempt to reset the relationship between Trump and not only Nigeria, but also Africa in general. Of course, Trump was reported to have made those vulgar remarks about Africa in January. Before that, he actually made some comments also about Nigeria in specific in relation to what he said were reported to have said Nigerians living in huts. So this is sort of a chance to reset that relationship, focus on positive things and mutual goals between the two men.
Indeed, moments to fix things here. Now, Buhari is the first African president to be invited to the Trump White House. Why him?
Well, I think Nigeria is important on its own terms, not only as an African country. I mean, this is, of course, the most populous country in Africa, 186 million people. It has a very quick, very fast-growing economy. And it wants to buy more U.S. weapons. Of course, the Trump administration last year, actually, or early this year, approved the sale of a $600 million weapons deal to Nigeria. Nigeria was very happy for that. It wants more. That deal had actually been held up by the Obama administration because of human rights abuse allegations. But the Trump administration, by all appearances, wants to move ahead with that and possibly other deals. Well, let's see what's announced.
Now, we know that, of course, the agenda on the table is security and also economic issues, but some wonder, is this all about Nigerian interests or more about the United States interest in the region?
It's a great question. Whenever Trump meets with world leaders, he typically does talk about security and trade, and he will tout, the benefits for that country. But what he'll also do, especially in relation to weapons deals, is talk about the benefits to the U.S. His common refrain is sort of jobs, 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 and we have the best weapons, things like that. He almost acts as a salesman in these instances, is what a lot of reporting has said on these instances. Now, like I say, the Trump administration has actually been willing to overlook some of these human rights abuse allegations. And the Nigerian government, of course, it says these abuses are sporadic and not systematic, and therefore shouldn't be subject to these U.S. laws prohibiting the U.S. government from making these weapons deals. But, for Buhari, this is also an issue of domestic politics. This is a U.S. leader who has said some controversial things about Africa and about Nigeria in particular. he is up for re-election next year, and he has to sort of navigate between, these security and trade deals and actually, being seen as handling the situation with Trump very carefully, too.
Yep. Well, Bill, thank you. Thank you very much for your excellent reporting. Definitely a lot to expect from that meeting at the White House. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And that's viewers William Gallo reporting live via Skype from the White House. Now to the European migrant crisis. At least 15 African migrants died on Sunday when their boat trying to reach Europe capsized off the Algerian coast. The European Union is increasingly making migrant boat departures from Libya more difficult, and it appears that Algeria is fast becoming the new transit bottleneck. Algerian authorities rescued 19 of the 34 people on board. The vessel departed from Morocco and sank off the coast of Oran, west of the capital, Algiers. The Algerian government says that that country is suffering from an influx of illegal migrants from sub-Saharan African countries, as Libya, once a funnel to Europe, has become a virtual dead end for most of the migrants. Well, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni was criticized this month when he asked the Finance Ministry to find a way to tax social media use in order to control what he called gossip online. Administration officials have since walked back that characterization, but they say they are pushing ahead with efforts to add a daily tax on mobile data use beginning this July. Halima Thumane reports from Kampala.
The Ugandan government says mobile internet subscriptions have increased by 15% in the past year as more people use online services to connect and make transactions. Now, two tax proposals are on the table. One would impose a 1% tax on every mobile money transaction. The other would impose a daily fee of about 5 cents on mobile data users. It is the second proposal, the so-called social media tax, that is stirring the most debate.
I think these days there are actually a number of businesses whose only platform is Instagram and WhatsApp and the different ways that they advertise on the internet. So I think that that was a very unfair assessment from the president of what Ugandans use the internet for.
Cabinet officials defend the proposal, saying it can help with infrastructure to improve connectivity.
If you are able to make WhatsApp calls, okay? If you are able to make Skype calls or have video streaming chats, so government is saying, just like other jurisdictions are, what's wrong with asking a service there? I mean a tax there. Because a tax is for improving your service.
Rights activists are skeptical. Uganda cut social media access around the 2016 elections and has detained at least one person over posts that criticize the government.
Freedom of expression is a right, and government should be looking more into facilitating people to express themselves, whether you agree with what they say or not, as opposed to taxing the means through which they are going to express themselves.
Activists say if the government needs revenue, it should focus instead on fighting corruption and waste. Parliament has the final say on new taxes, and Finance Ministry officials are expected to appear before lawmakers in early May. Halima Athmani for VOA News, Kampala.
Well, Liberia's Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was the first woman elected to lead a government in Africa. Now, she's also the first woman to be awarded the Mo Ibrahim Prize for Excellence in African Leadership. The prize is meant to celebrate democratically elected African presidents and prime ministers who have developed their countries and followed their constitutional term mandates. Johnson Sirleaf was recognized for her role in Liberia's recovery from years of devastating civil war. She accepted the $5 million prize at the opening of the Ibrahim Governance Weekend in Kigali, Rwanda on Friday. She says she will use the prize money to establish a center for the empowerment of women.
It's my hope that women and girls across Africa will be inspired to break through barriers, to push back the frontiers of possibilities. Where there's a first, there will be a second, and a third, and a fourth.
Well, former president of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, speaking there. she says she will use the money to build a center for women and development, and this will help to become more like an agent for change and change makers for peace and drivers of progress in Africa. Turning now to North Africa, where Egypt wants to speed up talks over the dam Ethiopia is building on the Nile River. The Egyptians appear to be frustrated over what they see as foot dragging by Addis Ababa over the dispute. The two countries are at stalemate over the construction of the Grand Renaissance Dam, a $4 billion hydroelectric project that Cairo fears will reduce waters that run into its fields and reservoirs from Ethiopia's highlands and via Sudan. Ethiopia hopes the dam will make it an electricity hub for the region and denies it will undermine Egypt's access to water. Ties between Egypt and Sudan became strained when Khartoum backed the dam because of its need for electricity. The three African neighbors are set to meet on May the 15th for further talks on that issue. Well, now, the Somali parliament on Monday elected a new speaker to lead the contentious house for the next 3 years. Lawmakers elected Mohammed Muzzal Abdirahman after 2 rounds of voting in Mogadishu. Abdirahman resigned as defense minister last week to contest for this speakership, securing 147 votes. He defeated former deputy minister of post and telecommunications, Ibrahim Isaac Yaro. Abdirahman, 61, is a former Somali ambassador to Turkey who is believed to have close working relations with the Prime Minister of Somalia, Hassan al-Khairi. The post became vacant on April the 12th following the resignation of Mohammed Osman Jawari. Well, the Africa 54 team is always thrilled when you reach out to us on social media to let us know what you think about us and the stories we cover. We recently covered the opening of the Legacy Museum here in the southern U.S. state of Alabama that focuses on the history of slavery. Najiel wrote to us, I'm tired of these museums popping up. They only show sadness and pain. How about a museum about our rich pre-colonial history? That would be a museum filled with pride and accomplishments. Well, Naji, it's important to remember all aspects of our diverse history, not only for us, but for generations to come. In the U.S., there are museums and exhibits devoted to our rich heritage, and we often covered those stories on Africa 54. Now, another story we covered was about promoting exports of Ugandan coffee in the U.S., and Mustafa Kone from Sierra Leone wrote, we have instant coffee, but different varieties of coffee can be produced in Sierra Leone if developed and properly managed. And it's always very rewarding to get encouraging messages from you. Chris Chinado from Ogidi, Nigeria, wrote about Africa 54 and said that we are one of the very fewest unbiased networks I have listened to. Well, thank you very much for your kind remarks, and please keep them coming. Reach out to us on Facebook at VOA Africa 54, and don't forget we stream our show live every day. Follow me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Well, coming up, helping children in northeast Nigeria cope with insurgency-related violence. Stay with us.
This is a country that I chose to become a citizen. I didn't have to become a citizen. I chose to become a citizen. I
feel like America gave me an opportunity to pursue my passion as an artist.
I really believe that clean eating is a way to a more successful life, or a happier life, if you want to put it that way.
One of the things that helps me wake up every morning is doing better, being better.
We grew up poor, and so I'm always focused on helping the working class be able to have a more comfortable lifestyle.
I'm passionate about doing justice every day. I oftentimes say that justice is a verb, not a noun. You know, I believe in action and moving the ball forward.
At least 3,600 teachers in Nigeria's northeast Adamawa state are being trained to better teach children impacted by insurgents in the region, and a program organized by the government and the World Bank. Office equipment and vehicles are also being provided to aid the learning process and improve education. Correspondent Freedom Halslon of Channels Television has this report.
Children's early years are a crucial stage in their development, as they are highly impressionable during the period. Events and experiences, especially bad ones, are likely to stay with them if not properly addressed. For school-age children in Nigeria's northeast, the Boko Haram insurgency not only affected their education, it also had psychological effects on them. Not unaware of this, the federal government, working with the Adamawa state government and the World Bank, is organizing training for about 3,600 teachers from worst communities on how to handle the psychological needs of students.
The same additional financing credit in particular is meant to support the government of 6 northeast states in the area of improving access and quality of education, strengthening the monitoring and evaluation of learning process.
The intervention of the World Bank is on the basis of its objectives of providing relief in various aspects to areas affected by the crisis.
It is therefore most gratifying to be part of this distinctive ceremony, which is well aligned with the key components of the project development objectives, which include the training of teachers in psychosocial support and pedagogic enhancement to deal with trauma, stress and displacement, as well as the training of members of school-based management committees, SDMCs.
For the Adamawa state government, the support from the federal government and the World Bank is coming at the right time.
Today's program marks yet another milestone in the history of our dear state, and in particular education family, as it will go a long way in supplementing the effort of the state government in revamping the ailing condition of education in the state. I'm aware that the intervention is meant to improve access to quality education and learning environment.
The intervention includes provision of office equipment, vehicles and renovation of office complex to enable schools and teachers do their jobs effectively.
When Boko Haram happened, it happened some of them were in classes while others are at home. So with this training now, the training will help in psychologically try to motivate them again, to bring them back to limelight in order to assist even the people, to ensure the people, giving people the hope that government is doing something about them and they also can also be taken care of.
The provision follows a state of emergency declared by the Adamawa state government in the education sector. With infrastructure and capacity building, it adds to the much-needed investment to undo the negative impact of the insurgency.
Well, that was correspondent Freedom Halslon of Channels Television in Nigeria. Now, the search for Togo's future football champions is underway as the country's national coach launches a grassroots initiative, Togo Top Seed 2018. Through the initiative, the coach hopes to discover and nurture fresh talent who will make the West African nation proud in future national and international tournaments. We get more in this report produced by Channels Television in Nigeria.
Up to 9,000 aspiring young football players from across Togo participated in the Top Seed Togo 2018 selection football program, which aims to find and train future players. Launched by Togo's national team coach Claude Leroy, the project aims to grow grassroots football in the country and replicate the kind of success enjoyed by Togo's football giants like Emmanuel Adebayo. The selection process is open to youngsters between the ages of 12 to 17 years old, who are recruited from all over the country.
My dream is to play in a World Cup final. So I am trying hard, I'm working hard every day, so that's my dream, to play in the World Cup final.
The players are put through their paces with drills including attacking, defending, passing, receiving and dribbling. Out of 9,000 youngsters, only 60 boys and girls were selected to go to the finals, which was played in Togo's capital, Lomé.
As planned and as outlined in the program, the skills that we are testing here are speed and power, although that's not the most important thing at their age, compared to things like being able to control the ball and dribbling. But most importantly, being able to appreciate what it takes to be able to play football. Because at the base, one has to be able to play football. There are those who are quick to show off skills, such as dribbling a ball, but that is not enough. We look at a number of qualities to determine if we have the best player or not.
At the end of the selection process, 3 winners were chosen in both the male and female categories. The Sparrowhawks are considered amongst Africa's best teams and a favorite at some of the continent's major tournaments, but they've been dogged by mismanagement and internal conflict in the last few years. Togo is ranked 125 worldwide by football governing body FIFA and 35 by the Confederation of African Football.
Well, that report was produced by Channels Television in Nigeria. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, Film Fest DC celebrates over 3 decades in the U.S. Capitol, showcasing film from 45 different countries. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. Avengers Infinity War suffered no superhero fatigue over its debut weekend, raking in $630 million globally. The film officially had the highest grossing opening weekend in the history of cinema. Marvel's latest brought in $250 million in the United States alone, besting the previous record holder, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, which made just under $248 million domestic upon its release. With this latest release, Disney now has 9 of the 10 biggest box office domestic openings of all time. Well, next up, this fashion event on a street in Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou, is a platform for up-and-coming designers to introduce themselves to the public. With the theme Colors of Africa, the event was an opportunity for designers like Rehiza Kabore to be seen and participate in a fashion event for the first time. Rehiza says she is working on integrating more of the Faso Dan Fani fabric, which is 100% cotton, into her designs to play her part in building a textile industry. She is focusing on attracting a more international customer base and has already received orders from clients living in the US, Canada, and France. Well, and finally, shoppers at a supermarket in Beijing can now pay for their food using nothing but their face. 7 Fresh is testing automated checkouts which use facial recognition. Customers hold their products up to an automated checkout kiosk. A camera scans their face and matches it to a sales account, while a second one reads the price tag. After entering a mobile number to charge the online account, the transaction is finished in seconds. Analysts say Chinese people are embracing facial recognition because they are enthusiastic about new technology and don't have privacy concerns like North American or European citizens. And that's what's trending today. Film Fest DC is celebrating its 32nd year in the U.S. Capitol by showcasing 80 films from 45 different countries to a politically savvy international audience. But the festival provides more than just entertainment. Over the years, the festival has become a cultural and economic force for a city known around the world for its bipartisan politics. Here's viewers Penelope Pulu.
From José Luis Tirado's contemporary flamenco opera called No, a Flamenco Tale, to the fiercely competitive world of ballet in Valery Todorovsky's coming-of-age film Bolshoi, to the sobering documentary The Cleaners about digital scavengers outsourced from Silicon Valley to delete inappropriate content from the World Wide Web, the festival offers cutting-edge films from all over the world to what founder and organizer Tony Giddens calls an eclectic audience.
Washington is a place where people are serious, but they also like to go out. And they like to be informed, and they like information about cultures other than our own. And the film festival offers all that.
The festival also is a boon for the local economy.
People come to the movies, they go to the restaurants, they park their cars. They pay taxes on parking the cars, eating in the restaurants.
One of the restaurants hosting patrons and events for FilmFest DC is the historic Darlington House. Over the past decades, the restaurant has welcomed a slew of famous visitors such as Andy Warhol, Keith Richards, Tony Bennett, and Bob Marley.
I've been in DC for 30 years, and we've been participating with FilmFest DC for almost 20 years. We have wine sponsors from Italy. We have the Swiss Embassy, the Italian Embassy. It just brings the community together.
So far, the 2018 festival has sold over 16,000 tickets, breaking the box office of previous years. The festival speaks to the hearts of film lovers, young and old, among them expatriates who live and work in D.C., says Herbert Niles, Associate Director at D.C. Office of Cable Television, Film, Music and Entertainment.
Because we are sort of the cultural agency of the district government, we provide also social media advertising. We promote it through our website, we promote it through our Facebook, Twitter, and the like. So what we try to do is create a community and to create an awareness of the different kinds of films that are available.
Films such as Robert Clem's documentary feature, How They Got Over, showing how African-American gospel quartets influenced iconic musicians of early rock and roll. Niles says the festival also serves as a platform for filmmakers trying to get exposure in the American film industry.
And then possibly get distribution on a domestic cable channel or even limited distribution in an independent theater chain.
Penelope Pulu, VOA News, Washington.
And that's our show. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Woodwork is any part of a house or building that is made of wood.
Crawl out of the woodwork.
This expression sounds troubling.
I won! I have the winning lottery ticket.
Oh, that's great. How much money did you win?
I won $25,000. But please, don't tell anyone.